Hi there, come in and craft with me. I'm Joey Bailey with Created in Awe, and I'm starting a brand new series for you on mini beaded garlands. This one starts with a block that comes from Dollar Tree. It has scalloped edges and it's about 3/4 of an inch thick plywood. I also have a napkin from my affiliate. You can find all of my affiliates in a post linked at the top of my Facebook page. So I'm separating out all 3 plies of the napkin. So 2 of them I pulled off the back, leaving just the top that has the design. And I decided I'm going to use 2 of the 4 panels. They do repeat, but I'm going to change the layout a little bit so you see kind of a little different design on each side of that wood block. So I'm deciding which portion I'm going to use. I'm going to go ahead and sand those edges. There's a few rough spots. I'm going to grab good old Mod Podge and give a coat of it to just one side to start with of that wood block. Fully cover it. Make sure you have covered all of the edges. And then we're going to take one panel of the napkin and figure out our placement, carefully lay it down. You might be able to pick it up a couple of times if you need to, but try not to. Then I have a piece of plastic that I laid over the top, and I hold it in place and completely smooth out as many of the wrinkles as I can. There were a couple of bubbles that popped up when I picked up the plastic, so a dry chip brush is helpful just to pat down those bubbles and then give it a good dry. Once that's dry, you can grab your sander. It's in my Amazon shop that is also linked at the top of my page. And sand at a 45-degree angle around all of those edges to get your extra napkin off. Make sure you have all of it done, and then you're going to repeat the exact same steps for the other side. You can see me start here. I'm going to go ahead and start with the Mod Podge, but then we are going to skip ahead because we did the same thing. Gave it a coat, laid it down, smoothed out the wrinkles, dried, all that good stuff. Now that it's dry, I am using just a little screwdriver to poke through the napkin to wallow out the hole so I can add my jute string through it in a little bit. But now we need to seal both sides. Get that napkin sealed down so it doesn't become damaged with one good solid layer of Mod Podge on each. I'm also putting Mod Podge around those outside edges just so that everything is smooth, it's easy to clean, it doesn't capture a lot of dirt, and, helps to smooth out some of those little spots that were rough. So everything is coated and dried on one side, and now I did the other. And we're going to set it aside while we work with our beads. Now, I have random beads from various projects where I had extras. So I do have a few raw beads I wanted to stain, so I put a little bit of brown paint, no particular brand necessary, and I watered it down quite a bit. I added those 4 natural beads into the bag and moved them around to get them coated, checked them to see if they were covered the way I wanted, and they were, so I went ahead and threaded them onto a real thin wood skewer, and I touched them up just a tiny bit with a paintbrush to make sure I didn't have any globs. Spread them out a little bit on that skewer, and then I'm going to prop that skewer up on top of a couple of jars so they can dry. Now my orange beads are a little bit pale. They're a little too pastel, so I want them more orange. So I added some just acrylic paint to the bag, water, and I did the same process with those beads, and I'm setting them to dry for a minute while I work with my brown painted or stained ones. Want to make sure those are more dry to get them ready to thread onto the jute. And they didn't take very long, but the orange ones did. So we're going to skip ahead. Now they are dry. Take them off of the skewers. Get the other beads all set up, and I'm going to get my jute string out. I had to dry my block a little bit more, sorry, and clean out the hole. There was some extra Mod Podge in there. So now I need probably about a little over 2 feet length of jute, and I've folded it over in half. I slowed this down just a little bit so you could see what I'm doing. I also cut about a foot length of jute, set that aside, and now my long piece of jute I'm wrapping around my hand. I think it was about 25 times to make my tassel, and then I will cut it off. You could make it thicker with more wraps, thinner with fewer, just whatever you like. So cut that extra off and I fold it flat. Now that long piece that I have folded in half, I threaded through one end of the loops all together, and I'm tying it down right at the midpoint of that string. So I'm going to have two long tails, and those together are what I'm going to thread through the beads. Now that little 1 foot section is what I'm using to wrap around the top of the tassel. I did hold back a little tail. It was actually very, very short, so it was kind of hard to tie, but I tied it off and made sure it was secure. Now I took the two ends of that longer string and I cut them the same length. I'm going to put a dot of hot glue at the end of those, and using those finger protectors, roll that end with the hot glue around so that it seals them together and it makes them really easy to thread through the beads. So I just picked the pattern that I liked. These colors, like I said, were random in my stash, but I loved how the colors matched the napkin. I thought it came out super cute. So the other end, I just tied straight onto the wood block, tied it down to the other end of the string, gave it about a 1/2 inch gap for those beads to move around, and tied it on really secure. And then I need to cut the loops of the tassel. You could even cut these short, make them all nice and short and even. I like them a little bit crazy and long. That's how I like my tassel, but here's how it came out. Thanks for watching.